Hello everybody, good evening and welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your latest Manchester United news and transfer news as we discuss... I am live, sorry, I didn't think I was live there. As we discuss Amrabat and Mabry leaving Manchester United. Also, the new director of football is very close to being announced, and I think we know who that's going to be. We'll also be talking about a few other bits as well with regards to what is going on with Rasmus, pre-season in America, and what is the opinion of Sir Jim Ratcliffe when it comes to people like Mason Greenwood and whether he could stay at Manchester United. So lots to get into on the show. Breaking news. Look, we're going to talk about Amrabat. We're going to be talking about the director of football as well. But there is a little bit of breaking news coming out in the last half an hour that Manchester United are going to accept a buyback. A buyback clause will be inserted, but an option to buy in the Hannibal Mabry loan deal. So this is not a player that's going to go and come back. This is a player that's going to go. It's an exit for Mabry. It's a nice way of saying it's not, but it is. It's an exit plan. David Ornstein saying that Sevilla are advancing towards an agreement to sign Hannibal Mabry on loan for the remainder of the season, and it would include an option to buy in the summer. There is an expectation that in that that permanent deal, there would be a deal featuring some sort of buyback mechanism, ensuring that Manchester United retain an element of control over the future of the player. So it will be an exit for Hannibal Mabry. I don't know what people think about that. I did say last summer that they were looking to sell him in the summer last year, and he probably stayed a season too long. How many times has that happened with players at Manchester United where we do keep them for too long? I think Mabry's probably lost a year by staying at Man United this season, and he's probably another young player that, to be honest with you, has been messed about a little bit, isn't it? I mean, we're hearing about, is it Isaac Aronson, who won't sign a new contract because feels that he's not been given an opportunity. United want him on a new contract, but he's got better offers from Ajax and other clubs. He's out of contract in the summer. But on the other hand, we've got the likes of Garnacho and we've got the likes of Mainu coming through. So look, you know, it's not like we're not using the youth. But we'll talk more about that in a moment. As you can see, we're sponsored by Manscaped on the show. Absolutely love it. Trim the grass to make the yard bigger, but there is more to Manscaped than this. In fact, I've been using Manscaped today. You can see I've been a bit clean shaven, so I've been using the hedge trimmer there. 11 different lengths on that, where you can get the length that you want, I suppose. Also, you got the weed whacker for up the nose, which is brilliant. You got the lawnmower for down there, trim the grass to make the yard look bigger. And then you got the handyman. If you like a clean shave, or I just use it around the neck really, just to make it like a nice and clean, or around these areas as well. You got the handyman, which is very, very handy. Fantastic bit of kit, very powerful. And you can get 20% off and free worldwide shipping for these fantastic male grooming products with the code TUS. Absolutely fantastic, Manscaped. As many of you know, because I know a lot of you have bought stuff from them in the past. If you haven't, or you want to get some new bits, there they are. Links in the description, or scan that QR code next to me. And you can get 20% off with the code TUS and free worldwide shipping. Absolutely fantastic. And I am actually sporting a Manscaped shave today. I was well overdue. Johnny says his wife uses his a lot. Fantastic, fantastic. Anyway, let's get back into the show. Big shout out to Manscaped. But yeah, I think we're going to talk about Amrabat now, but I think in relation to Mabry, I just would like to do a little poll with you actually. Should Mabry be leaving? Yes or no? I want to just get your thoughts. My honest opinion is this. He's better than Scott McTominay, but I'd still move him on. And that's it. I think if we want to be where we want to be, I don't think Hannibal Mabry's that level, but I do think he's better than Scott McTominay. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword for me. I think he's better than McTominay, and I don't understand why we use McTominay, but Mabry, I don't think is going to ultimately be good enough for us. I think there was an opportunity for him maybe to become a bit of a bench player if we'd given him more time. I certainly think there's a talent there, but for whatever reason, Ten Hag doesn't want to develop it, does he? Sandeep, welcome to the Members Club. So yes, if you're tuning in a little bit late, Mabry is leaving Manchester United, probably for Sevilla. They're ahead of Everton, and it will include a an option to buy in the summer, which I would suspect they will probably take, and I suspect it will probably be around sort of 15 million quid, probably about 15 million quid. Anyway, let's talk about Amrabat as well. So Amrabat, lots of stories coming out about Amrabat, and I suppose you could describe this as a lucky escape for Ten Hag, because again, this could have been another transfer, and it was meant to be a transfer. We'll talk about that in a moment, but Amrabat's actually been with the Moroccan team for a few days now. There was an interview with him that came out today talking about the AFCON and how they're in the Ivory Coast to represent their country and do well. So on the one hand, you've got this Onana situation who wants to play against Spurs, I think, because he's terrified of losing his place. And then you've got Amrabat and you've got Salah, who went out to their nations before the weekend. So, yeah, Amrabat is fit and out at the AFCON. And Onana's obviously still at Manchester United. But the story is from multiple sources, and it's probably not that surprising, that there won't be a permanent deal for Amrabat in the summer. Think of it as a longer Sabitzer, where, you know, he's come in, he's been liked, but he ain't good enough to break into the team, and therefore they're going to send him back. That's the scenario. I mean, they weren't fighting to keep him from going to the AFCON, were they? Or he didn't want to stay. Or actually he's just behaving like a normal player and going to play for his country in the AFCON. I think it's unfair to say he should have stayed. But yeah, it's not worked out with Amrabat. And the reason I said it's a bit of a lucky escape is because obviously the only reason we can send him back is because Manchester United didn't have enough money to buy him permanently at the end of the day. This was a deal that Manchester United wanted to do on a permanent deal, and the only reason it happened on the last day of the transfer window was because United took so long to do it and ended up having to do a loan deal. So the loan deal, I think, has cost us £10 million. It's a £10 million loan deal. And what I was told in the summer was it's a £10 million loan deal, because then when you pay another 15, you get him in the following summer. So we probably paid quite a lot of money for the money, but for Amrabat. But he is apparently going to be heading back in the summer. I don't think that'll be a surprise. But what I would say is he was never meant to be a loan. He was meant to be a permanent deal. And imagine, you know, what people would be saying about that if he was. Again, personal take on this. I'm a little bit confused. I'm a little bit confused again as to why or what the purpose of buying Amrabat was. Looking at the player at Fiorentina, I think that he showed what type of player he was, and it was Manchester United and Ten Hag's responsibility to take those attributes and adapt them to our team in the Premier League. What we actually decided to do was put him at left back and, you know, completely and utterly put no faith in him from day one. I think we're very lucky that we can send him back, because I think we've completely and utterly mis-scouted him, and I think we've completely and utterly misused him. And in defence of him, he came in at the end of August with very little pre-season because he was sort of on strike. We used him as a left back. We've had 3 international breaks as well. He's had a couple of injuries, and he's in an environment which is clearly impacting everybody else. So you could almost say he was set up to fail. You have to acknowledge that there's probably an issue in relation to what Ten Hag thought he was getting. But considering Ten Hag knows what he was getting because he had him at Utrecht, I just think it's just another massive mistake in the transfer window. And I would actually hope that he'd come back from the AFCON and have an important part to play. But again, I think he's better than McTominay, but that's not good enough, is it? As I say, I think we're very, very lucky that we have got this ability to send him back in the summer, because that's only luck. That's only because we didn't have the money to buy him, which is what we wanted to do. So I think with Amrabat going back, I doubt any of us are going to lose any sleep over it, but it's another bad reflection on United's recruitment, because we've spent £10 million on this loan deal and we've got nothing, nothing in return for it. But I do think he's been a bit unlucky, and I do think I do think he had the attribute. You know, I was pro the signing. I mean, realistically, you want to be signing Declan Rice. Of course you do. That's the player that we all wanted, but we clearly were never going to do a deal like that. We were never going to get Casido. We were never going to get Alexi McAllister. So, you know, you're moving down the list. I accept that. And certainly at the start of last summer, I wasn't there saying, let's go and get Amrabat. But by the end of it, I was desperate for it because we needed to do something. So I'm not going to pretend that I thought Amrabat was going to be a rip-roaring success, but I certainly am not going to pretend that I didn't want the deal to happen. And I've got to say I'm very, very disappointed again, much the same as Donny van der Beek. I'm very, very disappointed to have to put my hands up and say it's not worked, and I thought it would. Now, did Donny van der Beek fail because of his own inadequacies? Potentially, but I also don't think he was ever really utilised correctly. And I sort of feel the same about Amrabat. I don't think he's probably good enough, but I certainly don't think he's been given a fair crack of the whip either. It is what it is. Why are we selling our youth and not our deadwoods, says Progressive Dad? Money, 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 money. Who remembers Ted DiBiase, the $1 million man? He'd be the $1 billion man now. But money. It's the James Garner effect. Call it out for what it is. Some of the stuff I've been listening to today about who owns Man United is incredible. The Glazers still own Manchester United. That's why we're not getting the CEO we want, because they appoint the CEO. And United still... So Jim Radcliffe cannot say, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. The Glazers have to say it can happen too. And what we're seeing here is Glazonomics. What we're seeing here is we can't sell the shit, so sell the players that people want. So Mabry will be 15 million quid in the summer. It's 15 million quid. Pellistri might be another 15 million quid in the summer. You loan them in January, they go and do well, the club buys them, you get the money in the summer. It's clever from Manchester United as well, because if you take the 15 million from Mabry now, people will go spend it in January. If you get that 15 million banked for the summer, you can't spend it now. So they're probably looking at Mabry and Pellistri and going, well, there's 30 million straight away. And yeah, we're selling players that we shouldn't probably be selling. Maybe we should be selling, but we shouldn't be selling first. But it's exactly what we did with James Garner. We shouldn't have sold James Garner, really. We should have loaned him for another year. But we sold him because other people wanted him. And that's what it's all about. I don't agree with it, but that's what it's all about. Shane Matthews, welcome to the Members Club. Thank you very much. Rozzo's been a member for 37 months. Thank you very much. How, Mark, do you think the rise of Mainu was the end of Amrabat? Yes and no. I think that many people, including Ten Hag, had an eye on Mainu in the summer before Amrabat came in. I still think we need a midfielder. I don't really understand. And look, let's not pretend. I do think that Amrabat has played reasonably well in some games. I thought he played well against Bayern Munich, for example. I thought he played well against Liverpool at Anfield. I don't think he's been completely useless. And I think sometimes it's a bit like Mason Mount. Mason Mount's not been completely useless. He's done okay, I think, Mason Mount. He's just been injured a lot. I just don't think we needed a play like that. And again, Amrabat's not been useless. People are too dismissive when they're analysing a player. Amrabat's not been useless. It's just probably not the level that we're looking for. Mojo, welcome to the Members Club. Thank you very much. And James Clough says, anyone saying Amrabat is on Eric Ten Hag, please remember the conversations at the time. Amrabat or nothing, says James. Well, I think, to be fair, Amrabat is on Ten Hag. And Amrabat's on every fan that said he'd be a good signing. I thought he'd be a good signing, but Amrabat played for Ten Hag. Ten Hag wanted Amrabat because he knew him. Billy Price says Amrabat's shit. Hopefully this is the club saying no to Eric Ten Hag. I don't think... See, again, I think that sort of analysis is wrong. I don't think he was shit against Bayern, and I don't think he was shit against Liverpool at Anfield. Do I think he's good enough? No. But again, I always say this. I said it about Garnacho back in September. He needs to start playing every week. Otherwise, there's no point. And I do feel that probably with Pellistri, certainly with Mabry, certainly with Amrabat, you know, what are we expecting with these players when they're cameoing one game every month and then 20 minutes here and there? Everybody needs a run of games, and we just haven't given them the run of games, have they? Whether rightly or wrongly, we haven't. So I don't think it's a surprise that Amrabat will be going, but I think it's another sorry reflection on United's recruitment at the end of the day. Don't worry, Mark. We'll sign Neves for £100 million, says Grace. I don't think we do. I don't think we will. I wouldn't mind it, but I don't think we will. I don't think that's going to be on the agenda, if I'm being completely honest. But anyway, on to another story. Director of Football. You might have seen today, we were talking about it on the morning show. You get all your news on the United stand, of course, and conversation. But you might have seen it this morning that Blanc doesn't look like he's going to be the CEO. I think we all didn't think that through. And fair play to those who did. I mean, as I said this morning, I had to put my hand up and say, I didn't think this through at all. I didn't think it at all. I was like, we'll get Ashworth and Mitchell on the recruitment side. We'll get Blanc as the CEO. At least that's an improvement. And I completely and utterly missed the point that the CEO is the guy who runs Manchester United. Ed Woodward ran Man United for 10 years. Richard Arnold ran it for a couple of years. The CEO runs the football club, and the CEO is the Glazers' mouthpiece. So how on earth was Sir Jim going to get his own CEO appointed of Manchester United when he only owns 25%? The CEO will have a footprint on the football side, but the CEO is involved in everything. The Mason Greenwood stuff, PR, brand, commercial. The CEO is everything. How we thought Sir Jim was picking the CEO, I don't know. We all sort of didn't think that one through. It's not to say that Sir Jim won't have a say in the CEO, but the final say will be the Glazers. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not expecting anything special around the CEO, to be honest, now the Glazers are involved, but we'll see. But what I am expecting something progressive in is the football side. And the football side is the director of football or the sporting director. We are expecting in the next few days and weeks, certainly, for the new people to be announced. And the sooner the better when you look at some of the conversations we're having tonight and last night about recruitment. I said it to you about a month ago, and I must admit, since I said it to you a month ago, at times I've gone, ooh. But especially when the Dan Ashworth story came out, I thought, oh, does that impact what I was told? But I still believe that information is very good. I still believe the source is very good. And I still believe that it will happen because it ticks so many boxes. And it will certainly tick a box the Glazers like, that he's free. I expect Paul Mitchell I'm still 90% sure. Be careful of 90%, it can go wrong. That Paul Mitchell will be the next director of football for Manchester United in some shape or form. That doesn't mean that Dan Ashworth won't come. That doesn't mean that there won't be a head of recruitment and a director of football. But I still expect Paul Mitchell to come in. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't think that that's something that many Manchester United fans would be unhappy with. It would be nice to have a dream team of two really respected people. And I agree with that. But Mitchell, obviously, Southampton to Tottenham to Leipzig to Monaco, is currently free. And it makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. So I fully expect Manchester United to do that deal. And I fully expect him to be part of our recruitment team. So, yeah, lots of people talking about who the director of football is going to be. I'd be very, 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 very surprised at this point if Paul Mitchell wasn't given the job. And I think, the only thing that would hinder that is if they last minute steer towards somebody else who doesn't want to work with Paul Mitchell. But I think he would be very good. I want Ashworth. Well, I think there's very much a feeling that United would like both, which wouldn't be a bad thing. But look, in relation to Paul Mitchell, again, it's I'd be very surprised if none of you weren't happy with that, because he's certainly a name that's come up many a time on this channel over the last few years. And we're certainly massively in need of a type of recruiter who doesn't just go, how much can I spend on the most obvious signing? How much money can I throw at their agents? And how much ridiculous wages can I give? That's not really his motto. And hopefully that wouldn't be his motto at this football club, because I think we need to really revolutionise what we're doing on recruitment, because it's an absolute shit show, isn't it? Ashwin says we used to sell our decent youth players like Welbeck, Keane, Cleverley, Gibson for peanuts. I welcome this change, says Ashwin. And is Manchester United a football club or a circus, says Carol? Well, we want to be Sorry, Carol, I'm not laughing at your comment. Andre says, maybe John Murtagh will be the new CEO. Well, he's certainly a Glazerite, isn't he? Glazerite, or whatever you call it. The CEO will be a Sir Jim Radcliffe pick, not the Glazers, says Daniel. Daniel, I've had this conversation with somebody today. I will call out Pratt's comments, and that is a Pratt comment. You know nothing about what's going on at Manchester United. You're not privy to the conversations. You've got no idea how the club is run, and you certainly have got absolutely no idea about whether Sir Jim Radcliffe can pick the CEO. How on earth is Sir Jim Radcliffe picking the CEO of Manchester United when Manchester United is worth over £5 billion and he's only giving 1.3 billion for 25%? At what point do you think the Glazers are going to say, yeah, you can pick the person who's going to run the club? It's not going to happen. Maybe look at what a CEO is. Maybe look at who owns the football club, and then you'll realise that Sir Jim Radcliffe won't be picking the CEO. If he's really lucky, he might get away with getting someone like Blank in by recommending them. But look, that's the relationship dynamic we don't know. Maybe Sir Jim and the Glazers really get on really well. I would hope so. I don't like the Glazers, but it's going to be a smoother ride if they actually get on. And maybe Sir Jim over lunch has said, you know what, this person would be great. Maybe they have that sort of a relationship. But rest assured, well, don't rest assured, the Glazers own the football club. So, you know, as Rudrish says, Sir Jim Radcliffe won't be picking the CEO. He only owns 25% of the club. And I agree with Neil, though. Neil says Ineos may suggest a new CEO from within the football world that the Glazers agree to. Exactly. And I think that's the best we can hope for, which is why I was thinking that Blanc might get the job. But then I completely forgot that, yeah, the CEO runs the football club. The Glazers are going to want to pick their own man, aren't they? Marvin says, if he can't pick a CEO, then why is he here? But I mean, look, we've got to be fair. People consume football in different ways. But the information's there. You can't get pissed off with Sir Jim or the Glazers about information that's been there since Christmas Eve and before. The football side is being dealt with by, I suppose in fairness, what people do is, when they hear that Sir Jim Radcliffe's running the football side and Manchester United's a football club, they think he's running the football club. So I sort of understand that interpretation, but it's ridiculously naive because Manchester United is a football club. It's also a huge brand. It's also got many different areas to it. Corporate, HR, finance, the lot. So Jim Radcliffe is running literally the football side. So Carrington, the women's team, the youth team, recruitment, the manager. He's running the thing that involves the football for 25%. Beyond that, commercial endeavours, stadia, infrastructure, finance, all that is not Sir Jim Radcliffe's remit. So I think some people are just getting confused because Sir Jim's running the football side and they think he's running the football club. But the football club is not the football side. Well, it is, but the football side's literally football. All the other stuff, you know, all the bloody Snapdragon and shirt deals and everything like that, that's what the CEO oversees. The Glazers will, I imagine, want somebody who is a CEO who is their CEO, who they trust. They probably would be concerned about going with an Ineos. I mean, the Blanc thing now, as much as I want it to happen, I suppose I can understand why it's not happening, because Blanc works for Ineos. The Glazers own Manchester United, not Ineos. So would Blanc's loyalty be to Sir Jim and not the Glazers? They're going to want somebody who they can trust, I suppose. But we'll see. Look, who knows what's going to happen? I still hope and pray that there is a pathway to a full ownership. I hope for that. I don't know how likely it is, but I do hope that that happens. But of course, we've got no real information on that at the moment. And also within the footballing side as well, Mojo's just gifted 20 memberships. He's our CEO. Absolutely incredible. Thank you very much for that, Mojo. And Dylan Welsh says, I'm definitely open to Mitchell because of his recruitment. Always thought Blanc was too good to be true. Love the shows, mate. Much love from Halifax in Canada. Thank you very much, Dylan. He's been a member for 8 months. And Paul Woolley, also a member for 18 months, says, I hear people stunting Rasmus. Give him gigs and becks and watch him score for fun, Mark. It's amazing. It's amazing. I mean, I don't know how many of you live in the UK, but I want to talk about the Greenwood thing. But I don't know how many of you live in the UK, so I'll take it that not all of you do, because I know you don't. So in the UK, there's quite a lot over the last couple of weeks, certainly, about Rasmus. It's sort of bubbling under the surface. And I would say, in fairness, a lot of the media are sort of saying it's not good enough, but, you know, he's only a young lad. But I sense it's like they really want to go, he ain't good enough, he's a flop, etc. It's incredible. It's incredible because there are so many reasons to back Rasmus and stick by him as a United fan, and I'll certainly be doing that, and I think a lot of you will as well. I've said them countless times. He's only just starting his career, really. He had one season at Atalanta, really, and then he's come to Man United. He's only 20 years of age. He's 100% a work in progress. He comes into a Manchester United side that's not nurturing him. You know, he's not Wayne Rooney coming to Manchester United with people like Roy Keane and Rio Ferdinand and Vidic around him. He's coming into a Man United side that's got a bunch of bottlers around him. He gets absolutely no service. That's factual. I know he did against Wigan, but in the Premier League, it's factual that he gets absolutely no service. What do people expect? He's got no senior striker around to learn from or anything like that. Yeah, he should. Yeah, we want him to score more goals, and the situation's not great. But sometimes the situation's not great because the circumstances around it don't allow it to be. I think Rasmus will end up being a good player. But yeah, I'd be lying if I say I didn't notice some of the articles and some of the pundits and that starting to sort of like. But it's Manchester United. It's Manchester United, and Simon Jordan was saying it today on TalkSport. Why is it that Ten Hag and Man United get a lot more pressure than Chelsea? And he said that's because Chelsea aren't interesting. They're boring. Manchester United are interesting. You know, they've got the fans. They've got the history. Everyone's always talking about Man United and Liverpool, but Chelsea are boring. And I suppose that's good, but it's bad because there's other strikers out there that aren't necessarily doing that well, but they'll start on Rasmus. But look, I'll sit here and say about Rasmus, I will back him. I'm convinced he's going to be a good player, but I wouldn't sit here and say he's going to start scoring goals tomorrow on Sunday. I'm not confident he's going to score a hat-trick against Spurs, because to score a hat-trick against Spurs, you'd have to have the service first. Against Wigan, he had the service he should have scored. He will know that. I know that. You know that. But in every other game, I don't really see the service that often. So I don't think Rasmus is going to suddenly. I hope he is, but I don't think we're necessarily going to suddenly see Rasmus go and score 10 goals in 10 games. You know, like Vardy did for Leicester. I don't think that's going to happen until we start giving him the service. Jay says, Blanc still the best CEO choice for the Glazers. Record-breaking revenue at PSG and Juve. Elite commercial deals. Can't see why they wouldn't want him. I think, Jay, for the reason I just said, he's a gym guy, isn't he? He works for Ineos. The Glazers might be a little bit wary of that. I'm not, it could still happen, but I think it'll be very telling who the CEO is. I don't know who it's going to be, by the way. I think it'll be very telling who the CEO is. If it did end up being Blanc, I think that's a real positive because he is a Sajim guy, which means the guy running the football club is a Sajim guy. If it ends up being somebody that we're not so sure about, that might be a Glazer guy, then, it's a bit more balanced, isn't it? Are we seeing an Erik Ten Hag signing theme here? Director of Football now, says Keifel. And I'd rather lose with players like Gore, Pellistri and Mabry than lose with lacklustre and overpaid senior players, says Tyler. Mojo's been a member for 52 months, by the way. Not just a legend, but an absolute legend. Thank you very much, Mojo. Blanc's still the best CEO choice for the Glazers. I've done that one from Jay. And Samuel says, ideal CEO is the one that can work well with both the Glazers and Sir Jim, but has the ability to realise our football needs to improve because there is only so long United can get by as a club on that list. I just want to see Manchester United appoint a CEO who knows football. We've had 2 accountants who worked on the deal for the Glazers to buy the club. I want somebody that's knows what they're doing in football. Just on the Rasmus thing, by the way, I thought I mentioned it on the show this morning. I didn't. I tweeted it. So we were talking over the last couple of days about how Bruno Fernandes is the #1 chance creator in the Premier League again this season. And we were talking about the confusion around how he can be #1 for chances created, but Man United are near the bottom of the league for goals scored and chances created. And we were sort of saying, well, what is the definition of a chance created? And also, maybe Bruno's the only one who creates chances. I'm not definitively at the bottom of it yet, but I am starting to gather evidence around this. And just by chance this morning, I was looking at doing some research. Well, I wasn't even doing, I'll lie, I wasn't doing some research. I was having a cup of coffee, just reading about football for my own pleasure. And I saw this article on a website about Bruno Fernandes being the #1 chance creator in the Premier League. And it's only about 4 days old. And it basically said I think he was #2 behind Trippier or something like that. No, he was #1, Trippier was #2. I think that was right, because Trippier was definitely mentioned. And it said Bruno Fernandes is the #1 chance creator in the Premier League again this season. He's averaging something like 1 point something chances per game. And against Bournemouth, he created 6 chances. And I didn't spit my coffee out, but I straight away went, hold on a minute. We got beat 3-0 by Bournemouth, and I can't remember anything created by Bruno. So anyway, I happen to have an account with a stats provider whereby you can go into any player, any game, and if they've had 3 shots on target, you can click the number 3 and it shows you the shots. So it took me about 20 minutes, but using that article that says he created 6 chances against Bournemouth, I went into that game and I looked at every forward pass that was successful from Bruno, every pass into the penalty box, and every pass in the final third, of which there was quite a few. And having looked at all those passes, because there can't be anything else, there wasn't an assist, I couldn't find anything that you would describe as a clear-cut chance or a goal-scoring chance. All I found was 4 passes that went to Garnacho or Rashford in positions where it's not really a scoring chance, where they get it out their feet, run into a player, or shoot into a player. So we've got to be very careful about stats, because if that's 6... I mean, that could just be a dodgy website. It wasn't a dodgy website, but that could just be a badly researched article. But he didn't create 6 chances against Bournemouth. He didn't. He just didn't. Like, I've seen all the passes. He didn't. And if that's what a chance is, then for me, a chance is a chance that someone should score from. You know, and sometimes you play a lovely pass and someone miscontrols it. That's not a chance. That's not a chance. A chance has to be a cross in that someone heads over the bar, like Garnacho to Haaland, to Hojlund, or it's got to be a through pass where somebody, or a cutback, you know, where they should score. I think it's a very broad statistics, as Jeremy, I do as well. And I think this is why the eye test, and I'm working to a point to champion you here. We've been doing watch-alongs for years. We've been doing live shows for years. You can't beat the eye test. You cannot beat the eye test. And I've been confused this season about how we can be creating so many chances, and yet we're down near the bottom of the league for chances created and goals scored. And the bottom line is, some of these stats are very, very, very broad and open to interpretation. I've seen somebody play total shit for Man United, and then I've been called out. Like the other night, I said I don't think Rashford played well. Somebody said he had more shots than anybody else. He played more passes. He basically got 2 assists. And I was like, but the eye test says something very different. Even Roy Keane was talking about it on ITV. So, you know, I think these stats, you know me, I've always been very wary of stats, and I'm becoming even more wary of stats, because some people look on a website, see it, and take it as gospel. And they may have watched the game, but the eye test is the eye test, you know. Hi, Mark. Great show as always. Stats don't mean a thing to me. My 3 years is my stats, and Bruno is not good, unfortunately. That's why we struggle, says Lee. Look, I like Bruno. And one of the things I will say, because there is a positive here, one of the things I will say about Bruno is, in watching all these passes he played against Bournemouth, they don't just show you the pass. they'll show you about 15 seconds before and 10 seconds after. And what I will say about Bruno is he always wants the ball. He's always he's always looking to pass the ball. He is a very important player for Manchester United. But you know what I think? I like Bruno. But my biggest criticism of Bruno Fernandes is indiscipline in position. When I was on stage at the Manchester show, I did a little bit of a, what we should buy every Man United player for Christmas. And I said, if I could get Bruno Fernandes anything, I'd put like an electric shock in his pants. He can put it there himself. But if he goes out of the number 10 position, he gets shocked and sent back because he's everywhere. And you can see that on his highlights. He's everywhere. He's right back, he's left back, he's centre back, he's CDM, he's right wing, he's left wing. He's absolutely everywhere. Now, if you contrast that with someone like Odegaard, even probably De Bruyne when he's fit, James Maddison when he's fit, like he has got no positional discipline. That's probably because he's been given a free roam. He's been given a free role. I would like to see Bruno Fernandes, when Casemiro's back and Mainoo's next to Casemiro, I would like to see Ten Hag say to Bruno Fernandes, all I want you to do is play in the number 10 position. Because I think he's a very, very good player. And I don't agree with the criticism, but I also don't see... I don't see. I think there's a hidden. I don't see him creating chance after chance after chance. I just don't see it. Hi Mark, great show as always. Stats don't mean a thing to me. I've done that from Lee. I think if we have 5 players who deserve to be here, Rasmus is one of them. He's a team player, very unselfish and gives his all. And unlike Bruno, he doesn't whine when he doesn't receive any pass back. I've got no problem with Bruno as captain, by the way. No problem at all. Hi Mark, says Grant, thanks for the great content always and keep up the amazing work. May you and the United Stand team have a great 2024. Well, I hope all of us collectively will have a great 2024 because we are a community. We've been through so a lot. We went through COVID in 2020. We're in it together. So let's hope for a good 2024. Also, my preferred chance stat is big chances monitored by Opta. This means the shot and the end of chance has an XG of 0.4 or better. Says Jay. Yeah. I think there needs to be more clarity on it, of course. A good portion of my education was based on statistics and we had a required ethics class because of how easily they can be manipulated, says Brandon. Mate, you know what I think stats are? I think stats are being used by so many different people in a competitive arena and you can't just copy Opta. So you've got to come up with your own stats, your own interpretations. One website will do the same stats as another website and they'll be completely different because they're all trying to, quite rightly be number one. But I think stats, for me, and I've always had a big mistrust of them, and De Bruyne said it himself, what's passing accuracy? For me, it doesn't matter. I'm a creative player. I've got to take risks. Same for Bruno. But for me, stats are a little bit like YouTube compilations of players. We've all looked at players that Man United have been linked to on a YouTube compilation and they look like they're the reincarnation of Pele. And then they end up being absolutely shit. So I think they can be manipulated. I definitely do. The eye test is the best test in every area of life. So yeah, I agree with Brandon on that. Going back to that point about 5 players that Man United should build their future around, I really like that. Get in the comments if you're not watching live. What 5 players would you say, if you could only keep, this is a great question, this is definitely going to get clipped up. If you could only keep 5 players at Manchester United and the rest were being sold, so don't worry about, any United player that's watching saying you don't like me, you've got an agenda. You literally can only keep 5 players from Manchester United now and the rest will get sold. What 5 players would you keep if you could only keep 5? For me, it's got to be Garnacho, it's got to be Mainoo, and it's got to be Rasmus for 3 very similar reasons: age, potential, future. So those 3 are definitely going to be part of it. The next 2 is really difficult. I do want to keep Bruno. I think his age profile, his experience, and I think he's an important player to keep. And then my 5th choice, oh God, I like Luke Shaw. I mean, I'm not going to keep Delo. I like there's a lot of players I like. I like Delo, but you know, I can only take 5, and you've got to go for the 5 best, haven't you? So I like Luke Shaw. I definitely like Varane. I like Casemiro. Who else do I like? I do like Eriksen. I do like Anthony, but I can't keep them if I can only take 5. Rashford's got to be a consideration, even though people will go, "You're mad." For me, it's Luke Shaw, Rashford, Varane, or Casemiro for the 5th spot. He's only 31. Casemiro. So I would go Garnacho, Mainu, Rasmus, Casemiro, Bruno. That'd be my 5. I've completely forgotten about Martinez. This because he's been bloody injured. Oh, can I redo it? I didn't mean it. I've got a jumper that says Butcher on it. Oh, I can't. I've got to change it. I've got to remove Casemiro and bring Martinez in. I've got to go Martinez. Yeah. I have to. Martinez has to be. And the only reason is, again, why would you go Martinez over Casemiro? Because I've got Mainu and Bruno in the midfield, and Casemiro is coming towards the end of his career, whereas Martinez is... It's a good balance then, isn't it? You've got Martinez as your defender, you've got Mainu, Bruno, and Rasmus down your spine, and then you've got a creative flair player as well. But I do like Luke Shaw, I do like Casemiro, I do like Varane, and I do like Rashford, but my 5 would be that. Good question, isn't it? Completely thought about that myself. So yeah, my 5, if I could only keep 5 players at Manchester United, and you know, I've got to be harsh because I can only keep 5, it would definitely be Garnacho, Mainu, Rasmus, Bruno, and Martinez. That would be my 5. But it would be hard to leave Casemiro, Varane, Rashford and Shaw out. Garnacho, Martinez, Mainu, Hojlund, Casemiro, veteran leadership. Yep, so you've got rid of Bruno, Scott. I get that. Completely get rid of that. Rasmus, Garnacho, Mainu, Martinez, Shaw, says Dylan. Yep, I understand that. Martinez, Shaw, Garnacho, Mainu, Rasmus. Let's keep the young ones. And you're welcome for the question, says Shahin. It was a very good question, yeah. Nick P says Rasmus, Garnacho, Mainu, Anthony Martinez. And Lee says 5 players I'd keep: Rasmus, Garnacho, Mainu, Shaw, Varane. And Hojlund, Garnacho, Mainu, Bruno, and maybe Luke Shaw, says KFG. Well, I think what's fair to say is we've got 8 or 9 players that we would keep. You've got the Garnacho, Martinez, Rasmus, Bruno, and Garnacho that I said, and then you've got Shaw that some people have put, Varane, Casemiro, and I would still say Rashford. I know it's like that, but that can change very, very quickly. I think you've got 8 or 9 players, and the sad thing is there's not a lot more, is there? Hi Mark, how about David Gill back as CEO? Would be great since he knows the club in and out, and then bring in Blanc after the full takeover. Matt, I tell you what, I would do that. I would do that. I don't know whether David Gill would want it, but he would be a very, very, very good CEO to come back at Manchester United. You know, knows the Glazers from the first 7 years, and is well respected. He'd be very, very good. I just don't know what his appetite would be to do that, really. But yeah, it's got people thinking that 5 thing, hasn't it? But if we're being really harsh, is that not what Ineos should be doing anyway? Should Ineos not be saying, we only want to keep 5 core players and gradually get rid of the rest? I mean, you're going to have to keep more than 5. You've got a squad of about 25. But you know what I mean? Like, 5 players that you're going to build this team around over the next 5 years is not a bad motto to have, because it gives you 5 first-team players, and we know we need 6. And also, Onana's in goal, so it's 6 anyway, isn't it? You're telling me we don't need 4 or 5 players for that team. So logically, you've got to be thinking, I only want 5 or 6 players for my first team because I'm going to bring in 5 players anyway. And that's going to help you be ruthless. Decky says, what about Ahmad? Well, we haven't, you know, I'd love to put Ahmad in there, but we haven't seen enough of Ahmad yet, have we? I don't disagree with you about that. And as I said, you can only take 5. The principles of the experiment was you could only take 5. You know, so again, I don't disagree. I'm not saying I can't stand Varane or Ahmad or Rashford or anything like that. I'm just saying I could only take 5. And if we take 10, what are we going to do? Like, you can only pick 11 players. I think if I was in charge, I would be having that experiment with everybody. I'd be saying it to Sir Dave. I'd be saying it to Eric. I'd be saying it to Blanc. I'd be saying it to the new director of football. What are the 5 players that we're going to build this future around? Because the rest of them may become bench players, but we need to bring in 5 or 6 first-team players to supplement the 5 we're going to build the team around. And that's why, for me, the likes of Garnacho and Mainu and Rasmus and maybe Ahmad are so important, because that's got to be the future. Brian says, what about Mount? What about Mount? I mean, do you want me to guess? I don't know whether Mount's a player for the future. I've got no idea. I don't think he knows. I mean, you may as well say, what about... trying to think. What about Todibo? I mean, Mount's about as useful as Todibo to Man United at the moment because he doesn't play. So I don't know about Mount. Dead, welcome to the Members Club. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. It's been a cracking show tonight. I've absolutely loved it. I mean, sometimes you start a show on a topic and then you wander off somewhere else. And I've just got to applaud you all yet again for a fantastic show tonight. I've absolutely loved it. This is the community we've built. It's been a brilliant show and I've really enjoyed it. You can tell the shows that are good because it gets me really, really going. But we had a great show on That's Football last night. It wasn't a great game between Middlesbrough and Chelsea, but we had an absolutely brilliant watch-along talking about all sorts of stuff from, Brad Pitt or Susan Boyle. Did you pause Sharon Stone's video? I mean, there was so much going on. And we're back on there just before 8 o'clock. It's Liverpool against Fulham. So join me on That's Football in about 10 minutes' time. I will see you over there. Thanks very much for watching. Great show tonight. We're back in the morning, of course. And we're building towards Spurs from tomorrow because it's Thursday. Very excited about that game. Applause, everybody. You were fantastic tonight. The poll was 53% we should let Mabry leave and 47% no. So very, very close there on the poll as well. Nearly 10,000 votes. 53% saying that Mabry should leave, 47% saying no. You split. That's what it's all about. Thanks everyone for watching. I'll speak to you all in a few minutes on That's Football.